Good to be here.
It is great having you on. I wanted to get, you know, you're a real economist, and I wanted to get your thoughts on what the meaning of this Republican tax scam is, what impact it will have, both over the short term and the long term economically. And you're also an astute political observer. I'm curious your thoughts on the politics of it.
Okay, well, even though I have my PhD in economics and all the rest of it, this bill has nothing to do with economics. In many cases, it flaunts the very economics that we mostly teach in American universities. By that I mean, we've just come off of 35 years of growing inequality in the United States, income and wealth, and a clear growing majority of Americans who don't want that, who don't like it, who not only don't want it to continue, they want to reverse it to get to a much less unequal society. Given that, the remarkable thing about this new bill, this so-called tax reform, and the word reform has to have 3 or 4 quotation marks around it, the fact of the matter is it will significantly worsen the inequality that already besets the United States. It is an act of redistributing wealth from the bottom and the middle to those at the top. There's no nice way to say it. There's no fancy language to disguise it. Most Americans, to their credit, understand that, as every poll shows how unpopular it is. But we live, and here comes the economics, we live in a time and in an economy where the wealth distribution is so skewed to the top already that we have created among those at the top, the 1%, the 3%, however you calculate it, a clear understanding that they have a disproportionate share of the wealth in a country that is at least legally committed to universal suffrage, which means that we, the people, have the bulk of the votes, and they, the tiny minority, have the bulk of the wealth. It is then only a matter of time before we understand that we can use the ballot and change this situation and undo the inequality created by this economic system. To protect themselves, they've bought the political system. And that explains why, at the end of 35 years of growing inequality, we pass a tax bill that makes that inequality worse.
So what in addition to exacerbating inequality, and there are all these social ills that have been, you know, so well documented by Pickett and Kate Pickett and Richard yeah, and, you know, in the spirit level and in why inequality matters. That in and of itself is terrible. That rising inequality, or just the presence of inequality, leads to everything from, you know, higher teenage pregnancy rates, to more STDs, to more mental illness, to more crime, to, you know, to more depression, to more suicide, to more divorces, to more unwanted children. You know, blah, 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 right? Is that we know the ills of inequality. Are there economic crises that we may face beyond simple inequality that will come out of this tax bill? I mean, I look back at 1921 when Harding ran on the his campaign platform was more business in government, less government in business. In other words, privatize and deregulate. And he campaigned on dropping that 91% tax rate that funded World War I down to 25%, which he did. And that kicked off the Roaring '20s and led us right to the Great Crash in 1929. Reagan cut taxes in the early 80s, and that led to the Great Crash in 1987, the second worst stock market crash since 1929. George W. Bush cuts taxes in the early 2000s, and what do we get in 2007, 2008, 2009? Another great crash. It seems to me like this is the kind of thing, this is the kind of